Welcome back to the show, Disruptors. I'm your host, Aaron Hale, and this is the Point of Impact podcast. Imagine for a moment training to become an elite warrior. All the hard work, the discipline, everything it takes to become the best. And just as your efforts are beginning to pan out and pay off, tragedy, injury, surgeries, pain of recovery, all the emotions that come along with the realization that your life is not going to be the same as it was. You're not going to be that same person. Anger, sadness, fear, and then a shift, a decision, determination, mindset, a whole new course. No, the story I'm referring to is not my own. However, when talking to my guest today, Charlie, there were quite a few corollaries and parallels to my own, and I couldn't help but feel a little deja vu. It's an incredible story, and Charlie's an incredible person. I'll let him tell you the story, but I'd like you to pay special attention to how he looked at things and what kind of mindset, the way he thought about it, and the kind of things he put in his mind so that he could take action. If you're finding yourself stuck, feeling in a rut, the very first thing you got to do is begin thinking the right thoughts. And I'm not one of those people that will spout off cliches like, if you can conceive it, you can believe it, and you can achieve it, because I believe that's the missing key ingredient, which is taking action. But it's difficult to take action when you don't have the right attitude, the right mindset. And Charlie's got that in spades. So, for watching on YouTube, please hit the like, subscribe, give it 5 stars, leave a review, leave a comment. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And then it'll tell all the algorithms that this is a show worth putting out to other people. And if it's got some value to you, I'm sure it'll have some value to others, and it's worth sharing. And speaking of sharing, please send a link to 1 or 2 of your friends that you believe could use a little help with their mindset, or just like a great story. And without further ado, my guest, Charlie Vinch. Charlie, thank you for joining me on Point of Impact podcast today. It's really been an honor to have you on.
Thank you for having me on.
Tell me, you've got a fantastic story, and I really want to dig into all of it. Before we get into the trauma, the trial you went through, the difficulty, I really want to learn a little bit about where you come from, who Charlie Vinch is, what drew you towards Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and where does it start?
Great question. So I grew up in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and I grew up in a household with a father who is a very blue-collar worker. So hard work was always central and a big part of our lives. And I got into martial arts because I was bullied as a young kid, and I just never wanted to feel like, I had to feel scared everywhere I went in life. So that's what kicked off the martial arts. I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu later on, once I discovered that there was a ground grappling technique. But in the beginning, my martial art was JKD, which is Jeet Kune Do.
I do remember reading that you are, had also an affinity for, stand-up fighting. So you were able to mix styles when it came to others that prefer just the grappling. Um, and you said you're in New Jersey. I think I read somewhere Ewing. Is that where you are now?
So I actually live currently in Florida. I live in Coral Springs, Florida, which is South Florida, but I'm originally from Lawrenceville, New Jersey. Correct.
Okay, that's just outside Camden. I was gonna say,
Correct.
Am I right?
Yeah. We're about a half an hour from Camden, but we are right outside of Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay. I was gonna say you probably got into martial arts out of survival. In a sense.
A little bit of that too, right? So Camden is not far off from the lifestyle of people who live in Trenton.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be pretty rough. And, we grew up fighting. You grew up fighting. You grew up, you have to learn how to fight as a kid,
Well, what was it about the martial arts that drew you to it and kept you practicing?
So what initially drew me to martial arts, which is so important, Aaron, is for my story, is that I got drawn to martial arts because it is something that has always lit me up as a young man, being in a situation where I felt like I was struggling a lot with different things, mentally, physically, being bullied, having low self-esteem. And then I watched these movies like The Karate Kid or Kickboxer or Rocky, and that inspired me because I looked at those people and I was like, I want to be those people. I want that. I want to feel like I'm unstoppable. I want to feel like nothing can hold me down. So after I watched Karate Kid, I was like, doing the moves, I'm kicking, I'm punching. I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to let the bully do that to me again. So that's really what drew me to martial arts, was the pain of not having to go through pain, right? So there's two reasons I think that we make decisions, either desperation or inspiration. And Tony Robbins is big on this. I love Tony Robbins. So for me, this was out of desperation of, I don't want to get picked on anymore, and I don't want to get beat up by the older kids in the neighborhood because it feels bad. I hate the way it makes me feel. I don't want to get, smacked around by one of my family members who's older than me because it kills my self-confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it brought me in that direction initially, but then I started going more inspiration after I built up my self-confidence and felt really good about who I was. And then I was like, man, I want to be able to inspire people now to do the things that I did as a kid and overcome so many mental and physical challenges, that I want to give them the power now. I want to show them through inspiration, if they're going through pain. So that is like the way, that was the reason I really broke into martial arts.
Well, that definitely sounds a lot like what I call Newton's first law of kicking ass. A body at rest tends to stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. In a body in motion tends to stay in motion. So there's that desperation, only acting because of an outside force. Inspiration, movement, and that's, your internal inertia, right? Now you keep moving, you keep working, and it builds on itself. That sounds like a great reason to get into the martial arts. Is the whole body, the whole self, mental, spiritual, and physical. So you got to a young age. Where did you go with it? How far did you take your the practice?
So I started when I was about 13 years old, and then I took it to amateur level of mixed martial arts. And then I also did some in-house kickboxing and boxing matches. And then I shifted more towards coaching other people through owning my own studio and doing different things with the martial arts world as what I'm doing right now. But the reason I went from being a practitioner of competitiveness to then being a coach, which is it's a very different thing. We can get into that. Is, you know, those are two. Aaron, I think you'll understand this from your background. I read a little bit about you, and you know, I know that you know about leadership and, you know, different things in service to helping, you know, the people that you're with, right? So in the beginning, being a competitor, you have to be selfish, right? Because everything's about you. You have to make sure you're ready. You have to make sure that you're going to win. You have to make sure that you're training enough. You have to make sure that you're sleeping enough. And, you know, you're worried about taking care of your teammates too, but at the same time, your concentration has to be all about you. But the reason that stops for me was because I became physically incapacitated to compete anymore through hip injuries that I had crazy surgeries for. And that had to shift my focus from being selfish to unselfish. And then I switched more from about me to how can I give back? How can I be a better leader for other people through the experiences that I went through to show them, hey, this is how you do it. And I found out during that transition that I enjoy more seeing other people compete and hit their goals than me just doing it just for me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. This is one of the parallels in the story I've heard you tell before. In my own, is about taking that focus off of self and focusing it outward towards others, making that impact, making, you know, a difference in the world. And you're taking what you've learned, you're sharing it with others, you're leading and encouraging and teaching. And I think it's fantastic. You did mention injury and surgery. Why don't we get into that?
For sure. So I'll try. The story is super long. I'm sure we have some time here, but I'll try to make it as digestible as possible for your viewers and listeners here. So let's go back to, I was training mixed martial arts. I was on like my fourth amateur mixed martial arts fight. I was coming off a loss on a title fight that I had just fought. Right, I got offered a title fight only 4 fights in on my amateur career because I was doing so well. And I'm coming off a loss, and I'm working and living in Philadelphia at the time, and I feel this like weird pinch in my hip. And I'm like, oh, you know, it's probably some muscle pulled or, you know, something I hurt during training, no big deal. And that just cascaded into all kinds of crazy other pain when I walk and I stretch and I do martial arts. And it literally just got to the point of I couldn't take it anymore, right? Like the pain got so bad, nothing was making it go away. So I finally visited a doctor, and the doctor informed me that I don't have great cartilage in my hip, and it's all torn because of, you know, the way my femoral head was sitting in there. So I was like, all right, let's fix it. Let's fix it. Let's get to, you know, the problem here, and then I'll get back to fighting. And then I had it's called a double bilateral hip scope. So they went into both of my hips and they fixed the cartilage in my hip capsule. So after that, it was about 3 months post-op. I'm like, my hip still hurts. It doesn't hurt as bad, but it hurts enough that I can't do what I love, right? Like I can't do martial arts. So, what I then did is I went back to the doctor and I was like, hey, I'm not pain free. I can't do martial arts. What's going on? And he's like, well, let's do an x-ray. So we did an x-ray and he's like, listen, you don't have any cartilage left in your hips at this time. You're going to need to figure out how to do something else with your life, or you're just going to need double hip replacements. And I don't think it's good that you do martial arts after that. And then I was floored, you know, like this is like, basically the crux of my life was, you know, me coming out of this mental and emotional like jail, and martial arts freed me to be this person I never thought I could be. And now it's being taken away. And now the doctor's like, well, now you can't do it. So this thing that got me to this place was then taken away. And I was like, this is, life is unfair. This is so fucked up. Why does this have to happen to me? All of the things when something bad happens to us, we're putting blame on. And I was like, okay, so now I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to take that as an answer. I'm not going to settle for that. I don't like that answer. All right. I don't like that answer. I'm going to go get some more. So through trials and tribulations, I went to like 4 or 5 different doctors in different states with different procedures, different modalities. And I finally got to a guy in New York City named Dr. Morwin at NYU, who deals with young people who had chronic hip injuries. And he presented a surgery that's called hip resurfacing. And now hip resurfacing is a bit different than a total hip replacement. They're both addressing the cartilage inside of the hip, and the motion and the pain through different metal implants are still both, on that line of what you have to do in order to get the outcome that you need. But the amount of bone that they cut off on the resurfacing is way less than the hip replacement. And then also the approach, interior or exterior, this is just like surgeon talk, interior, exterior, how they come in. So I believe that my surgeon did a interior approach, which is like on the side of the hip, not an exterior, which would be behind the hip. And he said that there's way less dislocation and it's just better for young people. So, but he also said, listen, I want to tell you that this is not 100%. He goes, it's high, but it's not 100%. He goes, I want you to know that this is an elective surgery. This is not a surgery that you need in order to function with life. And I'm like, well, it kind of is. This is what I need to do martial arts. And he's like, I understand that. He goes, I know that's what you love to do. He goes, but if you didn't do hardcore activity and you just walked and you just rode your bike here and there and you didn't, need to do anything strenuous per se, you could live your life. And I'm like, probably. I said, it kind of hurts when I walk for long. He's like, but know that this is an elective surgery and it may not work. He's like, so I just want you to know that going in. And I was like, all right. So I left that doctor's office and I've told this story many times. And I just cried. I walked in New York City for 5 blocks and I just cried. I cried to myself. People were looking at me in the street. Not that I really cared. And I just kind of felt like things were over. I was like, my martial arts are over. What I'm here to do is over. Kind of like my life mission is over. This thing that brought me so much joy in my life and kind of dug me out of this hole and made me who I am is gone. And I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do now? So I was riding home on the train from New York City back to New Jersey. And I remember calling my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife. And I was just, crying to her. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't think the surgery is going to work and I'm scared and I don't, so many unknowns, right? I said, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to take the risk of trying to fix myself and it doesn't work and I don't get to do what I love for the rest of my life, or just be an everyday person, as I call it, right? And I remember asking myself, and I forget who had told me, Aaron, or who had said it, but it's pretty cliche. But I think that it holds a lot of value. Is if when you are older and you look back on your life, are you going to be happy with that decision that you've made with not going forward with that thing that was a could have, like you could have done something? Are you going to be happy with that? And I pictured myself in the rocking chair by myself, when I was 80 or whatever age I was older. And I thought to myself, are you going to be happy with yourself with that decision? And the answer right away was absolutely not. I'm going to be very upset with myself if I don't at least try this. So going forward, I said, okay, I'm going to go do this surgery and I'm going to fail forward. Les Brown There's a motivational speaker named Les Brown. I really admire him. I was listening to a lot of him while I was going through this stage in my life. I went to the hospital. I was crying. Before I was getting in the surgery room, I was upset. I was, just full of unknown. And all I kept telling myself mentally was, you're just going to fail forward. There's no perfect. Just keep sailing and just keep going forward. And eventually you're going to catch, something's going to catch. Like we're so scared that anything and nothing is ever going to work. So I told myself, just fail forward. Something's going to catch. Just fail forward. Just fail forward. And I went through the surgery. Everything seemed okay. I ended up opening up my own martial arts studio, impacted so many different people's and their lives. I was able to pass my studio on to one of my head instructors and change his life, and ended up moving here to Florida to open up another place.
That's fantastic. And what a difficult process, emotionally, physically. I mean, must have been a very painful recovery. Right?
It was fucking wicked, man. It was wicked. It was wicked. Yeah. I couldn't, not to be TMI here, I couldn't get out of the bed. It was so hard to just even walk. I don't know if you've experienced that, Aaron, but it was so hard to even just walk anywhere because my lower half of my body was just shot out. And I couldn't go to the bathroom. My wife had to hold, something for me to urinate in while I was laying in a bed because I couldn't get out of my bed and actually fucking walk. Like I couldn't walk. So everything had to be done in my bed for quite some time.
Yeah, how long was this healing process, the recovery process after the surgery?
So I would say that I didn't feel like really good, for like, it was a transition, right? It was a small transition. I would say, are you asking until I felt 100% until I go back to martial arts, or until I could do just everyday things?
And during that time, did you just have to sit there, lay there, or what?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I can't move. I during that time, I filled my mind with positive things because, at that time when the Newton's law, kind of what we were talking about, a body in motion stays in motion, but my body could not be in motion. Only my upper body could be in motion. And I call it like, the walls or the fence collapses in. When you sit too much and you're with your own thoughts a lot, the walls are easily collapse in, right? So, that's the only thing I could do. I could only sit and be with my thoughts. And if you start a negative cascade on what's happening to you and all you can do is sit and you can't go outside and move your body and change your state emotionally, physically, you're going to have to feed your mind with some really good things. So I just fed my mind every morning with like Arnold Schwarzenegger, motivation, Les Brown, anybody who was positive. I just kept feeding my mind with that. Inspiring documentaries, something that was funny. I would talk to my wife. I would have my family over. We would just have dinner together. Me just in a bed, just eating. So I filled my time with things that influenced me for the positive. Had I been alone, I'll be honest, I could have had a different outcome. I could have had a bad outcome, right? Because our mental state does affect our healing process when we go through traumatic anything, right?
Yeah, the same thing was running through my head when I lost my hearing. Was stuck sitting and lost my vestibular balance, so I couldn't get on my treadmill like I like to. And same thing, I had to get busy at something during the healing process. I turned to cooking and started a fudge company. And I did get on my treadmill and, just start with a slow walk. And eventually, a little bit built on it, a little bit more until I started getting that action back, that, motion, the inertia. And I was running marathons again. But it starts in the head, and feeling, like you said, filling your mind with that positive energy. It starts with, instead of, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me?
Yeah.
You just had that never quit attitude. I can't just stop and be, like the saying is, you're either green and growing or you're brown and dying. That sounds incredible. So you worked your way back to health, starting with positivity, your mind filling your head with Schwarzenegger and Tony Robbins. And
your mind has to be stronger. You're stronger than your physical body, because my physical body had no fucking strength. I had nothing. It was nothing. I couldn't walk. I couldn't pee. I couldn't go to the bathroom myself. I couldn't bathe myself. And you just like, Aaron, I'm sure you've went through stuff like that before. It's so mentally deteriorating to your masculinity, to you as a man. You're just like, I can't even do anything for myself, and you feel so worthless. And if you start that inside of your head and you're reliant on your physical strength all the time, what happens when that goes away? You're fucked. You need it up here. And eventually it's going to come to here, but you can't always rely on it here in the muscles. It's got to be here first, up top. And I learned that during that time. My friend told me, he goes, your mind needs to be stronger than your body right now. And I was like, fuck, he's right. And then when I would listen to Arnold on pumping, I would watch Pumping Iron like every day. And you could hear Arnold talking about, like, my mind has to be stronger than my body. He would talk about his internal talk about when he was working out. And I would work out my upper body when I worked up to it.
There's a terrible feeling of helplessness when you're physically knocked down. You need the aid of others to do simple things that you used to be able to do so easily.
Yeah,
definitely. I know right where you're at, where you were. So you worked your way back. Yeah, back to health. And tell me though, are you able now? Is it like your hips? Is it 100%? You're able to fight again after this, or was it still? You still had to make a transition there. Is that why you got into the coaching?
So I got into the coaching originally because I wasn't able to physically do it. And then I opened up my own place because I wanted to be more of a help, and I wasn't as physically able to do the things that I was before. Mm-hmm. But now, after years of physical therapy and taking care of myself every single day like I do now, I'm able to perform just as good, if not better, than I was before. Though this is something that, Aaron, I think you can relate to this too. Anytime you have something prosthetic in your body that's muscle or tendon or joint related, you have to meet into your body just like a car, right? Like, you can't just do it one time and forget about it. So all of my strength and conditioning and my weightlifting and my stretching and anything activity-wise for martial arts has to revolve around my recovery and how I'm taking care of my body in order to be the person who I need to be able to be. I just can't forget about stretching. I can't forget about, the certain things that I do while I work out that help me be stronger and more flexible for those prosthetic areas that need that attention. So yes, to answer your question, I am fully able to perform just as good as before, if not better.
So it must take some pretty incredible discipline, at least in the beginning, before you developed the new habits. What have you learned during the whole process?
I learned that, I'm stronger than I think, and I have fight in me that I didn't think that had somebody told me before, this is what you're going to go through and this is how you're going to come out, I would have been like, nah, that doesn't sound right. I'm going to go through one of the hardest times in my life and not be able to walk or go to the bathroom myself or bathe myself, and I'm going to come out better. That sounds ridiculous. I don't ever want to have to go through something like that. But I realized that I'm stronger than I thought, and that I've learn that your mental story and the way that we talk to ourselves and everything we feed our minds it's like 99% mental and 1% physical. Because if you don't have the physical, how are you going to perform? You need the mental. But I've come out from this experience knowing that I can repeat this process. I've done it before. It's a good reflection to look back on that time during other hard times in my life and go, wait, hold on. Look what you did before. You can do this again.
Love those lessons. That sounds great. You know, it's funny too. 'Cause after I lost my balance in my hearing, you know, I needed those handicap rails at the hospital, so it wouldn't fall, so it wouldn't fall off the toilet. Yeah. It was like a perpetual vertigo. I just didn't know which way was up. Yeah. So it is definitely an uneasy feeling. And it definitely took a lot of small steps before I could take bigger steps. You know, it takes exercising that patience and persistence muscle. Now it sounds like it was a tough road for you. So I definitely commend you on you know, the hard work, the fortitude that goes through all that. What's next? What are you doing now?
And so now I'm living here in Florida, and I'm going to open up another martial arts school here. I'm going to help impact people's lives here and do another Budo Martial Arts, because I have one in New Jersey. So the second one's going to go here in Florida. And then my long goal is to be able to create multiple studios in multiple areas with a system that I've created for kids and adults and other people, and create it like, I don't want to say a chain, but not a franchise, a chain of martial arts schools that embody the same things that I've went through myself, and that can create it for other people, you know, like an institute per se, but it's a martial arts studio, you know, and be able to pass that on to other people. So I'm here right now, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation, Aaron, because right now I'm going through a tough time. I'm going through a trying time here in Florida. I'll just be really transparent, because I think that social media always highlights all the great things in our lives, and it never highlights all the bad things. But, you know, we moved here a month and a half ago. I had I've had 3 things here that were supposed to bring me here to do what I thought I was going to do fall through. So originally I packed up my whole family to move here because I was going to purchase a gym from somebody else. And literally a couple of days before I moved here, the person pulled out. Like I had lawyer papers all ready to go, pulled out, right? Then another person that I was supposed to partner with, you know, nothing to do with on their part. I explored the option. I was with them in their gym. I didn't like how it felt. There were some stipulations that they had presented, and I didn't agree with them, and that fell through. And then I had another thing a couple of weeks ago where I was supposed to take over a student base of another martial arts studio here, and the person agreed to it. They were ready to go, and then a week ago, she was like, "No, I can't do it. There's somebody else. I'm gonna do something else." So I've had 3 things fall through on me.
Yeah.
While moving here, my whole family, you know, I thought things were set in stone, ready to, you know, and we're talking like to be able to provide even more for my family. And now I'm at 0 again. I'm back at 0. So I'm going through a trying time right now of, okay, now I have to open my own place with 0 students and build up a base and make sure I can cover rent and make sure I provide a great place, all while competing against other people.
Yeah. Well, if it were easy, it would be boring. Man.
For sure.
We're actually in the middle of 3 rehab projects in Florida right now, and
okay, we're in Florida.
Yeah, when we we first attempted this interview, I had to reschedule with you because there was a tornado going by.
No.
Well, it missed my house, but it came pretty darn close to two of our rehab projects. So one was on, it was actually done and on the market. The other one was getting staged and waiting for photographs to be taken so it could also be listed. And now both of them have taken damage. So, yeah, again, I feel your pain. So you're now looking for studio, you're building up, you're following on Instagram and other social media platforms, and you got a vision. It just takes putting one foot in front of the other. Keep doing those actions, like coming back to health after your surgery, right? You just got to keep doing what you know is going to work, and eventually. So I have absolute confidence that you'll get that those studios, those academies up and running, and get your student base going. The type of discipline and determination you've already shown yourself and shown your previous students, it's inevitable so long as you stay at it.
Thank you.
And where in Florida are you?
So I live in Coral Springs. Aaron, I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. Coming from you, like it really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. So I live in Coral Springs, which is close to Miami, about 45 minutes north of Miami. But I'm going to put my gym right around Coral Springs or the Coconut Creek area. Are you familiar with that? Where do you live in Florida?
Yeah, I'm all the way at the other end, Pensacola, almost. But for any real estate types that might have a lead on space for my friend Charlie here, definitely reach out. And how can others go find you so that they can maybe be trained by you or share their leads on a good place to have a studio?
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Aaron. So they can find me on Facebook and my first name, Charlie Vinch, or Instagram, where I'm very active. It's just Charlie Vinch. And please shoot me a message. If you guys have any questions about martial arts or anything that I've been through, I can help you guys out if you're going through an injury in your hip area. And also, you can shoot me a message on Facebook.
Awesome. And as they say, links in the notes below. I really appreciate your time, Charlie. I appreciate you sharing your incredible story. And again, I have no doubt you're going to find success so long as you keep at it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience, or is there something I should have asked, but I haven't yet?
No, I just want to say something to you personally. I am very impressed with, what's the right word? Man, I look at your story, Aaron, and kind of the thing that you've been through, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but I reflect on myself, and I'm like, man, maybe it's not as hard as you think it is, Charlie. Like, Aaron's had it way harder, and look, he's getting through it. Like, you can get through it too. Like, I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, Aaron, but like, I admire you a lot, man. Like, you went through some hardcore shit. Like, that's...
Frankly, the way I picture it is that there's just no alternative. What other choice do we have than to just do our best? You could have sat back and accepted fate, whatever that is, in your situation, and given up. And what kind of a life would that have been like?
I'm doing it now. I'm doing it again now, right? I'm at the point where it's like, what am I going to do? Just not open a gym and move back? Like not an option. Like the mindset of when things don't go your way, you start backpedaling on your goal, right? Like you're like, oh, maybe I'll just backpedal. And it's like, that's not why you did this. You need to stay focused, stay the course, and just execute, and just don't let fear get your way. Just keep pulling the trigger, keep pulling. You're going to hit it eventually.
Fear, F-E-A-R, face everything and rise. And bleep everyone and run. Charlie, again, thank you very much for your time and sharing your story. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.